play the Allegro from the Sonata in E minor by J.S. Bach.
Hi, my name is Harvey Bravman. I'm the publisher of BrooklineHub.com. We also produce the Brookline Youth Awards now in our 11th year. Please watch the Youth Awards on April 29th. You're watching Brookline Hub In-Depth. The goal of our show is to share impactful interviews on the important people, organizations, and subject matters that affect the Brookline community. We're here today with the Brookline Symphony Orchestra. I'm really excited about it because our first year of the Youth Awards was 2011, and the Brookline Symphony played for us at the Coolidge in their first year. I first want to introduce you to Laura and Sylvan Wheel. Is it Laura?
Weeks.
Weeks, sorry.
Weeks. No worries. Happens all the
I
time.
almost thought I was going to get it right.
Even at our wedding, they pronounced it wrong.
Even
So
if you went
we don't
wrong,
worry about it.
sorry to add to the list of
It's okay.
people who got your name wrong. But you're the co-founders of Brookline Symphony Orchestra. If you could introduce the rest of the panel for us, that would be great.
Great. So we have Melissa Dula. Sorry. So speaking of pronouncing people's names wrong. So we have Melissa Dula. If you want to say hi, hello.
Hello.
Melissa is a cellist. She also has a home daycare in Brookline. And she is our social chair of our organization. Andrew Altenbach is here. He is our music director.
Right.
And we are so lucky to have him as our head of our musical direction. And we have Kristen Moore, who is a flutist extraordinaire.
Hello.
And she's been a part of our orchestra since the beginning, and is also an employee of Powell Flutes, and your title is?
I'm a sales manager.
Oh, the sales manager of Pal Flutes, but in my mind, like the head honcho of Pal Flutes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Running the show.
And Kristen is also a member of our Players Committee.
Oh, yes.
That's
Important.
correct.
That's very important.
Sylvan, I'll ask you this first question. Tell me the story of Brookline Symphony Orchestra, how you started. Laura, you can chime in. You're the co-founders. How this started, and just a little about the journey that you've gone on.
So, Laura and I and many of the people that are on this call have always wanted to play with others in the community. And you find various places to do this, but doing this in orchestra is quite difficult if you win players. And many of the organizations that we were going to, we love many aspects about them, and some we didn't like as much. And so we were at a point in our lives, we had just gotten married, and what was the next thing we were going to do? I think we were not ready for kids or things that normal adults do. So we decided to found an orchestra. Although the seed was not planted by us, it was planted by Carol Lewick, who's a member of the community. She was in the original Brookline Symphony Orchestra, and she had told us that this organization had existed, and like some organization who faced challenges fundraising and keeping the inertia and motivation going, the orchestra itself didn't fold, but sort of stopped functioning in the early 2000s. She said, you should check it out. We may have all of the paperwork in order, and it wouldn't be such an ordeal to get this thing started. So we did. And we had a couple meetings in, I think the first meeting might have been in May. It was just the three of us, and we looked at the paperwork and we said, okay, let's see if these people are still in town, and maybe we can get them to sign the papers over to us. And that's how we got started.
I want to mention something really wonderful about the greater Boston area is that it is filled with music groups of varying levels and missions. So, there are so many orchestras, and so there's an orchestra in every town. There's a Cambridge Symphony, there's an Arlington Symphony, there's a Boston Civic Symphony, in addition to so many others. And so there wasn't a Brookline Symphony when we were living and moving to Brookline, and we wanted to join in with all of the musical traditions of this area and have this in our community.
Thank you. I'm going to bring in Melissa and Kristen now. Just, your volunteers. So you're the social chair and sales chair. I'm all of those chairs in one. I call the sales chair the begging chair. I need to beg today, and so beg for money for the nonprofit. But you obviously love music so much that you're willing to do it for free. And where did that love come from? Like, when did your love affair from music come? I'll start with you, Melissa, and then Kristen, if you could follow her.
I actually started playing music in second grade. So I've always been a musician. I've played piano, clarinet, cello. I've always played, and I've never wanted to be a professional. I've always just enjoyed playing. So I've always been in orchestras, and I've always had friends that are musicians, amateur and professional. So I put my cello down for a while I was going to grad school and having kids. And when I moved to Brookline, I heard about Brookline Symphony through a friend, and I decided I needed to pick my cello up again and have something that was just for me. It wasn't anything to do with work. It wasn't anything to do with my family. And it was just feeding myself and meeting other people who love music as well, and fostering those kinds of friendships and networking, and just knowing other people in the community in that way. So I joined, I think, 8 or 9 years ago, and I've been playing ever since. So it's not new in my life, but it's kind of, I've kind of brought it back into my life now that I have kids and a career already set.
Kristen?
Yeah. So Melissa mentioned she never set out to be a professional musician, and I was kind of on the opposite track. I, was a band kid, started in 5th grade with everybody else and was really into it, and then went on to major in flute performance for my undergrad, and then got a master's in flute performance, which is what brought me out to Boston from Chicago. And, when I finished grad school, the idea was to take auditions and, figure out a way to make money on the side, but you worry about that later. And I needed an ensemble. You have to keep your ensemble skills, keep those chops up. And that was perfect timing when the Brookline Symphony Orchestra was, having its big renaissance. And I auditioned and was fortunate enough to get into the group. And so it was a home for me to just keep playing an ensemble every week, that it used to be every day. It's like, okay, this is once a week. That's good enough. And then my career, it went in a different direction. I got burnt out, as a lot of musicians do. And really decided, what, I don't necessarily that starving artist lifestyle, moving all around the country for whatever audition you win is not so much for me. And I just want to keep playing music for the fun of it. And I, now eventually after a few jobs ended up where I am now, which is at Powell Flutes, which is great because I still get to be a musician every day and work with other flutists and help them find their dream flutes. And you have to be a flutist to be able to do what I do. And I use my teaching skills, but then every Monday night I get to go to my happy place and play with all of these other wonderful musicians, some who have similar backgrounds or maybe were where I was 10 years ago, out of college, wanting to just play music. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to just still get to do like what my heart loves and my passion, but I don't have to worry about paying the bills with it now.
Andrew, so if I've got this right, you're also the director of is it the Boston Conservatory's opera? I think you might be on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I am music director of the opera program at the Boston Conservatory.
So what made you say yes to this? I mean, I can imagine, I'm sure that that's not a part-time job. And it must take an incredible commitment to have that kind of position at the opera, but then you also took on the director of the Brookline Symphony Orchestra. Like, how did that come about, getting this position?
Well, I had subbed in with the group there. I was asked to sub for a rehearsal like 5 or 6 years ago, something like that, or maybe more now. It was maybe like 7 years ago, actually. And I remember I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know like how big the group was going to be. We were actually doing a really hard piece. And I remember just being pleasantly surprised, not only with the quality of playing, but also just the spirit in the room. It's like a lot of places, an office, an orchestra, you walk in and there's a energy in the room, and it either feels really good or kind of vanilla or kind of bad. And this was really good. And then I stayed in touch with a few people in the orchestra. They had a search a few years later. There were candidates that went through the season, and I did the final spring concert and was offered the position. And it's been really also become my happy place. The quality of the playing is really high. There are many people in the orchestra that are not professional musicians and could have been had they, like, if they had not gone on to study science or law or math or whatever it might have been, they could have easily gotten master's or doctorate degrees and worked as professional musicians. So there's a lot of skill there. I mean, I think there's joy in making music, and there's an extra joy in making music well.
You're doing more than just having a symphony orchestra that it's with volunteers. You're running a nonprofit and you're managing a nonprofit, and I know what it's like to have to earn a living, you know, on one part of my life and to do something just for the community. You know, tell us a little about the, you know, whoever wants to answer that, the challenges of trying to survive as a nonprofit. Why don't we do the year 1 through 10, because the last year is a whole story unto itself.
Yeah, it's hard to, fully describe. I think for Laura and I, it truly is like having a first child. This orchestra, it's as much dedication and love and frustration. But I think, one of our primary mission, we have a mission to the community, but our first community is our members and our memberships. And the people who join the orchestra are the one we really cherish and want to help grow in their musical journey and in their community journey. And so I think if you get, just when we started, maybe we had 20 members to 30 members, and if these members get excited about the music you're playing, the work that you do, then they tell their friends and family, and your group grows and your network grows and your fundraising grows. It grows slower than everything else, but it still grows a little bit. And I think this is how we've managed to do so well, to go from a group of 20 people to now sometimes over 70 people in an orchestra and audiences of, upwards to 300 or 400 people. Is really through engaging first and foremost with the people who come every Monday night and want to get better at playing music and want to be, in the dining room of a nursing home, playing for people who don't really get out much from that nursing home, and getting that amazing feedback from people. It's such a trip to just play in front of an audience and getting that feedback that they really enjoy it. And if you can keep this going, I think our group will do well for many years.
Andrew, do you want to talk a little about how the biggest elephant in every room in the world is obviously the pandemic, but how did the pandemic affect the orchestra, and what's the last year been like?
Well, like everyone else, we shut down operations in March, just a week or even just a few days really before our concert, which we were still very proud of the preparation that we were doing, and we had a great soloist coming to play a very difficult concerto. So it was disappointing, and like everyone, I think people were sort of bewildered for a while of just what was happening in the world, and it was a constant stay tuned feeling. And then as it became apparent that we were in for a much longer duration of suspension, we've done a few little things to stay connected with one another in terms of of a few online Zoom events, trying to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of people are spending most of their day, their work day, on Zoom. So there's only so much allure an extra 90 minutes of Zoom has to many people. But it's been good for boosting some morale. Sometimes just talking on the phone with each other has been helpful. Um, and then in the summertime, we got together a very small group, spaced out with masks, playing outdoors on the lawn, and with the C train rolling by every, I don't know, 14 minutes or so, and just playing some string music and at least hearing each other in an acoustical setting. And so that was nice. We try to do that off and on, weather pending and wind pending. And then we had a program in the fall that we were trying to do, again, socially distanced, one player on a stand, smaller ensemble, everyone with masks. And that I think we had three or four rehearsals, something like that. And then again, it got shut down. Yeah. We are trying to actually rejuvenate that. We have pretty high hopes that we're going to sort of speed date this concert with a few rehearsals and put on a concert in April. And in the meantime, we're fortunate that we don't have a lot of fixed expenses. We don't have office space that we have to pay rent to. We don't have having players where it's their avocation and not their vocation. We're able to hibernate in a certain way. We've been using social media to stay in touch with our community, and I think, like many people, we take it sort of week by week, month by month, see how the landscape of the world changes, both epidemiologically and politically and just locally. So we think we're in a good place to start up something and then unroll as time goes on. And we hope that by next season, we should have a relatively normal season. We'll see what it's like to get our patrons back in. I am not saying that the digital Zoom world is going to ever go away, but I also I'm craving for us to have, what makes our music so special is close proximity of both performers and listeners. And the digital experience can do a very small bit of replacement to that, but we really need to find ways to be live again. So
Zoom actually, when you log in for, the pro account that we have, says that they might shut down so now you can do an interview like we're doing in high def, but they just said that they may do like 3 or more people in low def. So that will make at least recording that way difficult. Did you have you guys, like, in the last year, with our films? I'll just ask it, just with our films, and the video that we've already produced, we've tried to repackage it on YouTube, just to do some work, because we already had that footage, and you can't shoot video either during a pandemic. So we try to just repurpose content, just trying to think of some way to get out there.
As a social chair, I wanted to express to everyone in the orchestra that I was missing them, musically and socially. So I have hosted 2 Zoom nights for members of the orchestra, inviting everyone to join and listen. And if people wanted to play, they could. So we did one, I believe, in June of 2020. And we had like 20, 25 people log on and listen, and maybe 10 people played. And it was great. And I have to say, we were all still kind of figuring out Zoom at that time. And there were times you couldn't hear people playing, or someone was unmuted and they didn't realize it, and you heard them talking to their spouse instead of the person. And there were, it wasn't perfect, but the spirit of it was 100% perfect. And people would play whatever piece they wanted to play, and just the enthusiasm for it and the appreciation for the sharing of the music, I think just speaks to like everybody really missing music and in wanting it no matter what it looks like, and even if it's not perfect. So we did that in June, and then we did another one in December, and we're going to do one in the next few weeks. And it's just a great opportunity for people to see each other, and offer a little bit of music, whatever the music is. And again, it's not a performance. It's not a perfectly sounding recorded concert in any way, but it's just a chance for us who are in the orchestra to see each other and share our music, because that's what we love. So it's been really fun to have those few Zooms.
Kristen, what do you think that does for the people on the other end? There are people on these Zooms, and what effect do you think that it has on them who are also trying to navigate? They also have the elephant in their room, the pandemic.
Yeah, I think, it's just a reminder that we're all going through this together, and you can kind of take comfort in that. The Zooms Melissa organized were just the ensemble members and maybe family members that chose to sit in. And that was another fun element too, is, oftentimes we just see the orchestra members at rehearsals and maybe get to meet families at concerts. But, for example, Laura and Sylvan, playing a trio with their kids. And, so having those, being able to bring the family into it, I think, made it all a reminder of why we are in the group. It's a very personal mission for all of us. And that connection to our communities, even if it's through a computer screen, it does the job. It's not perfect. It is a good fill-in for now. And so it's motivating too, especially, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I kind of went through a practice slump of like, man, I don't have much of a reason to quote unquote practice right now. And, you just kind of want to put the instrument away for a bit because it's a little depressing, the whole situation. But it was a good reminder of like, okay, I can do the work on my own for whenever real life resumes, and, just doing it for the fun of it, remembering that, we're all just musicians at our core, and there are other reasons out there to practice than rehearsal.
Right. Well, I can tell you, and I'm going to go to you, Andrew. I can tell you that what you do has a huge impact. And, when Brookline Hub, we were hit blind. I mean, we had planned this whole elaborate 10th anniversary of the Youth Awards. And I remember
Us too.
and it was, I never thought it would get to 10 years. And, we produced a video compilations of, 160 interviews that we had produced over the last, 10 years, everything. And it hit hard. And like, and you can't see your family and everything. And I can tell you that, my wife and I have gone through so many series, binged watched so many series, and watched movies and stuff, but nothing has come close. I have a big 65-inch screen that thank God I bought like 3 weeks before the pandemic. My wife wanted to kill. We have like a 65-inch screen in like a 66-inch room, you know, and it's just ridiculous. We live there now, but at night, the thing that's kept me going, one of the biggest things is I just watch music videos, concerts, the type of music. This is Mark Knopfler, who some of you might know about, but the people that I love, and learning about new musicians and new music and whatever it is that seems to be the thing that we all want to live in the moment, right? And to get that pandemic out of our minds for a minute. And, you know, music has helped me, and I'm sure it's helped so many people in the community. So your efforts to find ways to get out there, you know, they're just so important, because it has an effect. It means something. Andrew, I think you were gonna.
I actually had sorry, just a couple pandemic related, and
Sure.
I think with regards to the orchestra, you know, on the plus side, certain things like Zoom have helped us to be more flexible. So I think it has helped us with auditions. So people interested in the orchestra, scheduling the auditions has been easier. People can send us video of how they've done this, and we've heard some really, really good players that I think will be there. We've also managed to run our concerto competition. We have an annual concerto competition, and that was all done virtually, and that went really well. But I think for me, the big elephant in the room is when the dust settle and then we start calling people and say, okay, are you ready to come on Monday night? You know, I have 70 people to call, and I don't know that everyone will answer the phone. And I think that's a big question mark. You know, is the Monday night still in their lives? Have they stopped playing the violin or viola and decided that maybe they don't want to play it anymore? You know, who knows what this year has done to so many of us. And so to me, that's a big question mark. We've managed to stay in touch with many, but some haven't been participating in these events. And we'll see what happens. And I think, to me, that's sort of yeah.
I don't think we need to worry about that. I mean, I know you're worried about that because you are mostly in charge. But I know that I'm so sick of talking. You know, I'm on Zoom all the time, and I'm on FaceTime all day with like my friends and family, and I'm so sick of talking. Like, I want to go to a play and to a concert, and I want to play music. You know, I think people really appreciate art right now, because that's one thing that we don't really have access to, except for digitally. And yeah, to have an activity that doesn't involve discussion, I think a lot, and I know that people feel the same way that I do. So
oh yeah, I think people are so hungry for live music, and I am really looking forward to that. But I do know that if I ever play anything and put it on Facebook, or if my husband is playing music in our backyard, or if we're anywhere singing anything, I mean, people like come out of their houses and stand on the street to listen. I mean, people are so hungry for it right now. And I'm hoping that pays off when we can all play together. I hope that we have packed houses, and I hope that, you know, not just for monetary reasons, just that I want packed houses. I want people coming and hearing us. But I also hope that
you guys, I can't
what's
wait
that?
to breathe all. I can't wait to breathe
I know.
all. Just like, let's sit really close and just breathe and sing at each other.
We did get
I'm also hoping that people right now are taking advantage of how many musicians are online. I myself, just in the last few months, have discovered a couple really amazing musicians that I'd never heard of, because I'm busy making my own music and going to my own rehearsals. And So I've, just literally been Googling the kind of music I like and the kind of instruments I like, and finding all kinds of musicians on YouTube. And that's been super fun. And I look forward to those musicians coming to Boston and being able to, see them perform live. But it's been a great time for me to discover music myself.
My wife, Karen Chase, is, she's in the trenches with me a lot with this nonprofit work, and we've had to do Zooms together. So Sylvan and Laura, you appreciate the yin and the yang of try to do that too. Karen often disagrees with me. Laura and Sylvan, what's it been like to try to raise funds for the symphony since the start of the pandemic?
You want to do this, Laura, or should I?
We can both go.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So I think, as Andrew mentioned, one of our strengths is we have a very small operating budget, and many of these expenses are non-recurring expenses. We don't have rent to pay. We have a few people that, we need to compensate. So it hasn't impacted us greatly financially. And so we at the board level made a decision to not be overly aggressive with fundraising, because other organizations, I think, were in more dire straits than we were. So what we did was launching an end of year campaign. And that was really the only very active fundraising component that we had. And we did incredibly well. We had a very small target. I believe it was $7,500, and we doubled that target. So people are out there and they want to support us, and we're extremely lucky. Can't explain you exactly why it happened to us and why it's a struggle, but we're certainly excited about this, and hopefully they will keep thinking of us when we start having to pay bills again.
So I think we should tell everyone that we are mostly funded by small donations.
That's right.
That we do get some grants from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and and those are funneled into the town of Brookline, right? Who then disperses them and handles the,
Right.
who gets what. But the town of Brookline itself does not give anything to arts organizations. There's no budget in the town of Brookline for the arts. So everything comes from personal donations, corporate sponsorships. We are so delighted to have been a part of Team Brookline for the past many years. I was on the team, so Team Brookline trains to run the marathon. It's this great group of people. It's 5 different local nonprofits who are a part of it, and we are correct me if I'm wrong, Sylvan, I think we're maybe the only arts nonprofit in the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And
I think I'm right.
and we're not it's not even sort of officially a nonprofit for the Boston Marathon. We benefit from the town of Brookline getting, fundraising numbers, and we were selected as one of them.
So we've really delighted in just being a part of that group, to get to know the other nonprofits in the town and to collaborate with them. Harvey, this is how you and I met. Also, I was on the team the first year that we were a part of it, and so I've seen all sides of it, just as a runner and just as a participating organization. So that has really been phenomenal. But we've got to work on the town of Brookline to get a small percentage to the arts, because there are a ton of arts groups in Brookline. It's really a wonderful community, and I think that people, if they knew that there was no money in the budget for the arts. I think people would care about that.
I agree with you 100%, Laura. I think the town of Brookline should help fund the arts in Brookline, and it benefits the entire community. But until they do that, you all at home can help the Brookline Symphony Orchestra right now. Before our next question, for the next 10 seconds or so, we're going to show you how you can donate to the Brookline Symphony Orchestra. You'll really be doing a great thing for your community. We're going to take a quick break and tell you about BrooklineHub.com, and then we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, my name is Danielle Myers of ADW Video Productions and BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com is a 501c3 nonprofit online publication dedicated to community building through local reporting and events. Brookline Facing Civil Rights was produced by our founder, Harvey Bravman. The film is about the experiences of African Americans who helped break the wall of segregation that existed in Brookline before the civil rights laws were passed in the 1960s. Last year, the film sold out the Coolidge Corner Theater and included a panel discussion on inclusivity. You can stream the film and the discussion on BrooklineHub.com in exchange for a donation to the Brookline Community Foundation's Safety Net Fund. You can also stream Soul Witness, a film that features interviews with Brookline Holocaust survivors conducted 30 years ago, on soulwitness.org.
I have a quick question for Kristen, and then I'm going to go to Andrew. Kristen, tell us about the Players Committee.
Yeah, so the Players Committee is a group of musicians in the Brookline Symphony, a representative from each instrumental section: woodwinds, brass, percussion, strings, violins, violas, cellos. We each have that representative to just, it's another viewpoint. Laura and Sylvan are in the orchestra as well, of course, which makes a huge difference. But this way, everybody feels like they have somebody to go to. Maybe they don't know Sylvan and Laura as well, or it's, maybe a sensitive concern that they really only want to bring to this representative. So that's what we are there for. We also are, just kind of that form of communication, whether it's good things or not. And we help out with auditions as well, as the musicians that might be sitting next to this future violinist or clarinetist. It's very similar to how professional orchestras are run with, members of the orchestra on the committee, because we're the ones playing next to them. So it's definitely an honor to be a part of it. And I think really helps the other members of the ensemble to know that their voice is heard at all times.
Andrew, so I was reading in BrooklineHub.com that that the symphony has been focusing their efforts on diversity and highlighting and working with female composers. Do I have that right? And can you tell us a little about that?
Yes, it was not like an official agenda that we stamped before the board of directors, but it was something that we decided was important to our programming, to have certainly women composers or composers from communities that have gone unnoticed in the repertoire. And we've done that the last couple of years. There's usually been a female composer or a composer of color on just about every program, since at least in the last couple of years. Both seasons have opened with a female composer, and Laura and I were having a conversation one time about, should we have, because I think it came, was it you, Laura, or was it Laura Fanning?
I think it was Laura Fanning.
Okay, so Laura Fanning was on our board and was doing some grant writing, and there was a grant for, and it was sort of focused around female composers. And in terms of our narrative, there was one discussion of saying, should we have like an evening of all women's composers? And I, not that there was any call for support of something like that, but I immediately pushed back at that experience because I think it sort of screams tokenism, and it looks like we're just trying to check off a box. I mean, there's no reason why Anna Klein's music can't stand next to Beethoven,
Right.
or Mozart or Dvorak on a program, and it's great for, and it's interesting and fun and important for a listener and for our members to play Anna Klein and then say, okay, now let's go to the Beethoven, and now let's go to the Florence Price. And then we are exposed to a lot of different styles and voices and orchestrational choices, and seeing how they're different, but also seeing how they're similar. And it's that sort of exploration I think is just healthy and should be a part of any organization or group of people that are intellectually curious and also socially minded. It's one of the good things about being a music director is there's a certain amount of power, and if you can wield that power to bring about some good stuff and highlight certain works, then it's an honor to have that sort of ability. Now, I say that like the programming is done also with the board, of course. I don't just unilaterally show up and say, here, it's what we're doing. But I think it's right now, it's sometimes is the challenge is the that there are works by female composers or people of color, and what we find sometimes is that the publishing companies have not spent enough time actually like editing their works, and it can be a major challenge. Like the Florence Price Symphony is like it's a score that's there, and we did it the Third Symphony. It is not edited. It needs, the publishing company really should put down $25,000 to edit and reprint nice parts, and they probably don't find that sustainable in their business model. But we I think we did a really nice job with a piece like that. I was really looking forward. We were going to do a piece by Missy Mazzoli this spring, and I had been wanting to do a piece by Missy Mazzoli for a long time, so I was kind of bummed out we didn't get to do that. So I think we'll just continue on this path of trying to find who are the different voices out there, and then what are the pieces that they have that are suitable for our group, suitable for our space, suitable for our budget, etc. But it should be a part of our programming narrative as an organization.
What you're saying really resonates with me. The power of presenting female composers and people of color, persons of color, along with other composers. It shows a power, and we made a decision for the Brookline Youth Awards too, that we get praised sometimes because we're introducing the community to, an interview with a student with Down syndrome or on the autism spectrum, or immigrant from all over the world, and we just sort of didn't. Well, that wasn't our goal. We just presented you the students we felt deserved this. There where we would just almost deny that that was our intention. these are all just teenagers, and we're just showing you the students who have had, what we feel are incredible achievements, and just and if we're going to be fair about it, then it's going to be a pretty diverse representation, just because we all have the ability to achieve. Is there any questions? This is we've had a pretty good interview here. Is there any questions that I should have asked you guys that I didn't ask, or subject matters that we should address?
Yeah, I think it's just the one subject matter that I don't think we explicitly explained, that the orchestra gives 4 outreach concerts after our performances at All Saints Parish in Washington Square. So after every single concert, we bring the entire orchestra, so sometimes like 70 people, to a lot of times we work with the Hebrew Senior Life, so 100 Center Street. We've been to Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, the Hebrew, what is it called?
And of
Hebrew
Senior Life in Roxbury.
In Roslindale, the various places, and I just think that I almost love these concerts more than our typical concerts, because you're just bringing music into an often very small space. So talking about being crammed in shoulder to shoulder and barely being able to move. So the audience is crammed and the orchestra is crammed in, and we play and these like really big pieces sometimes in a small space. So I can just sort of imagine the wall of sound. But when I am older and living in one of these homes, or maybe I'm in a situation where I can't get out, I want an entire orchestra to come and play for me. So this is a really important part of our organization, in addition to doing some small chamber things for other nonprofits and charitable.
Brookline Symphony Orchestra, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to repeat again how you can donate or help support the Brookline Symphony Orchestra. Thank you all for being with us for the show, and we're going to end this show with Andrew Altenbach, the director of the Brookline Symphony Orchestra, and he's going to play us something to end our evening that you can replay over and over and over again.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, this is a Greek notturno, a song for the evening, which is appropriate since it's 9 o'clock at night. It's a little
Fantastic.